I had like this shift in my head one time. It's so funny, but I saw this guy. He probably worked at like Vice. Like he looked like someone that would work at Vice. And he was just like,
Brooklyn hipster.
Yeah. And we were on the A train going downtown, and like homie just like pulls out his vape pen, hits it, and it's just like super chill. And I'm across from him, dying with anxiety because I have like some meeting or like I have this project due. And I was just like, I can't wait till I'm that person where I'm comfortable going to work, like where I'm not stressed out about what's coming down the pipeline or what's due or like the environment that I'm in. Like it's crazy because I haven't felt that anxiety in so long. It's going on, I think I'm hitting 2 years of leaving the agency. 1 full year of being like completely freelance.
Mi gente, dímelo, what's good? Welcome to another episode of the Eres podcast brought to you by Plural. You already know, it's your boy Pavel bringing you another very special episode with another very special guest. As a quick reminder, on this show, the mission is to redefine professionalism. So every week we have a different guest to join us for a very candid conversation around the conflict that they've experienced between professionalism and authenticity. That said, this week's guest, who you heard in the intro, is none other than the homie Steph, aka Natives 1990 on Instagram. Before getting into the full conversation, let me give you a quick bio so you have more context into who she is. Stephanie is a multi-disciplinary creative born and raised in Uptown, New York City. Her experience as a brand designer and photographer within the last decade led her to start her own creative studio, Natives. Under the Natives umbrella, she's been able to work with a bunch of different brands and clients, including New York City Parks, Nike, Adidas, Hennessy, and many others. Stephanie also serves as the creative director for MRFU, a streetwear and lifestyle brand located in Uptown, New York City that you gotta check out. Big shout out to the owner and founder, Diddy, who's the homie. Now that you have a little bit more context into who our guest is, let's get into this dope conversation that you're not gonna wanna miss. So the word authenticity, right? It's a buzzword you probably hear all the time. What does it mean to you though? When you hear the word, like what comes to mind?
Authenticity, being comfortable with yourself, I feel. Having some sort of pride in what you do and sticking to it. I feel like to be authentic, I almost feel like I hide myself, right? Like everyone's out and mingling and showing face and shaking hands. And I feel like I'm the opposite of that because I'm always just home working and like on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I always have this like imposter syndrome because I'm not doing the thing that people do, like the social thing, but I'm being authentic to myself because I love to work. So like in the morning, I'm like, what am I gonna do today? Like I have a list of things to do and I'm staying authentic to myself by getting it done. But yeah, I wake up and I just get the thing done. And like, I'm being authentic to myself that way. Like, I don't feel comfortable in those spaces.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but I feel like just being comfortable, like being comfortable in what you're doing, being proud of what you do and sticking to it.
So comfortable. What about growing up? Do you think you were comfortable being yourself?
No, not when I was a kid.
Tell me about being a kid. Where'd you grow up?
So I was born and raised on Arden and Dungan, and I went to school. There's a Catholic school on that block, OLQM.
I went to Catholic school my whole life.
Yeah, I went from kinder to 8th grade, and I was like the only rockera. I was like the weirdo kid. Oh yeah, I grew up listening to all types of music, but I was very much like the alternative. I was the emo kid, right?
What does emo kid look like?
Well, I guess I used to granted, we're in Catholic school, so there's uniforms, right? It was only up until 7th grade, I had this transformation. I was like this chubby kid growing up, and the summer of 7th grade going into 8th grade, I lost a ton of weight, I guess puberty.
Okay.
Lost a ton of weight, and I was obsessed with Avril Lavigne at the time.
Okay.
And
I mean, she was popular.
Yeah, super popular. And she was very much like, do your thing, be yourself. And I took that and I was like, this is what I needed. The next year, 8th grade, I walked in with fishnets. I had these ghetto Doc Marten boots or whatever. Yeah. I wore a tie. Like I said to the uniform code. And all of the teachers let me do it because they knew that I was like the different one. And they were like proud of me for like finally sticking to it.
So what'd you wear before that?
Just like regular blue, like navy or black stockings and like
skirt,
loafers on the skirt.
loafers.
Yeah. Like I still had the skirt and like the vest, but like I switched it up a bit. And like just fishnets alone, wearing that in a Catholic school, they're like, you gotta go home. Like you gotta change right now. But I didn't give a f. And a lot of the teachers like respected that. So much so that other kids started to. And they're like, no, you can't. They're like, well, yeah, but Steph is doing that. And they would just be like, okay, and? Like I had full backup. From like I had a lot of support in 8th grade at least, and that was like my transition. And I was like, you know what, this, and then going into public high school after 9 years of Catholic school, my mind was blown because I was in school with all Dominicans, maybe 1 or 2 black kids,
right.
No white kids. And then all of a sudden I go to public high school on 17th and 8th Ave, and it was just like, holy, there are other people like me. Like, this is crazy, you know?
So you saw other people dressing how you wanted to always dress. It wasn't restricted by like a dress code.
Exactly. That and just like skater kids, people that had similar interests in like music and like shows. A lot of people were, I guess in elementary school, you're young and everyone follows suit. Everyone, for example, everyone went to the same high school pretty much after graduation because they all wanted to be together because we all grew up together.
I think it's interesting too because early on, like you said, you had support from your teachers in that 7th, 8th grade point. But here you are like changing how you're looking aesthetically and visually. And this other element that I think is very influential on our authenticity early on is family.
Yeah.
What was your family's reaction?
My family was like super supportive of like my crazy style choices as like an emo kid. Like I would wear like the parachute pants and the steel beads and like the rubber bracelets and the spikes. They were super supportive in that way. I remember like vividly this one time I was watching like a System of a Down music video and my cousin came in. She's like, what are you doing? You know?
Like next Sunday take you to church.
Exactly, yeah. And I guess they kind of fell in line and they supported it in that way. My parents were super supportive of me playing in a band. I started playing music officially when I was like 14. I picked up the guitar at 11 and by 14 I was playing in a band with my friends and my parents were super supportive of that.
I love that.
Yeah, they would go to my shows and stuff. Like,
really?
It was really cool. Very appreciative of that.
You know what's funny? I used to play basketball as a kid, but I would never want anyone to come see me play. And my parents, it's weird because people are like typically wish that their parents had an interest or wish that their family had an interest. My family had such an interest. They would beg me, but I would be so self-conscious about them seeing me play.
Interesting.
Because I would get so much anxiety. So oh my God, this is an embarrassing story. Do you watch basketball?
Sort of, yeah.
But you know what a traveling is?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
You would travel a lot?
So every time I got the ball, I would like travel every single time to the point there was one time there was an announcer and he gave me the nickname Travel Agent.
Oh no.
Yo,
Travel Agent's back again. Back at it.
I had my girl. There was this one time I like invited my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Her brother came, her friends came, was like, no, my boyfriend, he's really good. Yo, I did so bad.
Dito.
So bad. But you were good though. That didn't give you extra nerves.
I feel like I grew up self-conscious, being like a chunky kid. I always grew up con complejo or whatever, but I don't know, I think the nerves have always been there. I grew up like in theaters too, so.
What do you mean?
Like in a children's theater. I don't know if Pied Piper's children's theater.
No.
So Curo, you know where Curo Quirin is? Up the block on Seaman and Cumming, there's a church, there's an Episcopalian church. And there was a children's theater there. And I guess, I don't know, I think it was a neighbor that introduced us to the church. And she was my brother at the time loved acting. And I guess, I don't know what he's doing now, but he doesn't act anymore. He pretty much ran the theater at one point. We were always in that theater. I did a couple of plays, but he was like the head of everything at one point. And yeah, we grew up in a children's theater. It was very interesting. I hated it because I just wanted to be on the street skateboarding. And I guess that was my mom's way of getting us off the street. And my brother was like he still is a total nerd, but that was like his forte. It definitely wasn't mine, and I was like pigeonholed, but that allowed me. Well, I feel like I never really had a problem being like doing public speaking and like talking in front of crowds. I've always been outgoing in that sense. My brother's like he's always like hiding in his shell. So that I think also helped both of us kind of hone in on our personas, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, by the time I was performing music, I was like actually performing live, I'd have the nerves of me being the only girl in the scene. And I was playing lead guitar, so people were like trying to size me up. They're like, you don't know how to play.
I never thought about that. Women not being part of bands typically.
Well, I guess
certain music
styles.
Yeah, like you figure, I mean, there are a lot of women, but back in the day, there was a huge like music scene in the Bronx.
Okay.
Specifically, this one group, 3 college friends that started this thing called the Bronx Underground, which was like local shows in a Lutheran church in Pelham.
Okay.
And like they would do it in the basement, and these shows were crazy. And that was the mecca. If you were in a local band, to be able to play for this group, to play a Bronx Underground show was like, you made it in the scene. So that was like what we would strive for, and no female, no woman was playing, or girl, no girl was playing in a band at the time. So I had a lot of pressure in that sense. I was hanging around a bunch of boys, and I've always been used to that, but you get certain people like, you know how to play those arpeggios? It's like I don't play metal. Like, that's not the kind of music I play. But I've always been sort of used to that.
So was it intimidating early on?
A little bit, only because we were like pipsqueaks, and like we grew up broke. Like I remember I had one of our first shows that we got booked. I mean, it gives me such red winds how to think about it now, but my best friend's mom bought us the first amp that we had. Like she like spotted us the money and we paid her back. And we grew up super broke. Like we always borrowed equipment, so going in, we were always like self-conscious. Like, we still made a buzz for ourselves. We always made it happen.
And people are probably like taking lessons, so they're using certain jargon of like we were just talking about like photography.
Yeah.
And I just bought a new camera, so like the opacity and all this other exposure. I'm just like, what the f is this?
It's a learning curve.
It's a little bit intimidating, but it sounds like early on, like you had like interest into like creative entertainment, all of those kind of things. When you thought career-wise, like what was the thought of like, I want to do this when I get older?
So design and music for me go hand in hand, and if one came before the other. So, you know, I grew up as a kid, I thought I was going to be a soccer player. Being half Ecuadorian, I thought I was going to be like the next Mia Hamm, and that's like very much my father speaking in my ear. And then I started playing music. It would have been great if that was like the thing, but I lost touch with that once I started playing around with Photoshop, funny enough. So I don't know where this guy is now, but my old bassist, we used to call him Cheerio. He was like some kid that I grew up with. He was super into design. He was like one of the first people to show me Photoshop. And he would do these cool things. I'm like, what is this?
Like,
oh, this is graphic design.
Making flyers or something?
Yeah, not even flyers, just making random things. MySpace hadn't come out yet, so this was very much AIM and LiveJournal. Remember LiveJournal?
Okay, yeah.
I forget what the other journaling websites were, but he would post these things and show me, and he introduced me to design. So once we were in the band, it kind of dawned on me, I'm like, I can do this and make designs for like other people, other bands, and make MySpace profiles, because that was like all the rage at the time. So we're talking like 2004, 2005.
Okay.
Jesus, that sounds so long ago.
Yeah, MySpace sounds like that long ago.
Yeah, forever ago. So through playing music and like just being in the band, I like picked up design. I picked up Photoshop. I was always in my brother's house. Like he had a computer, so, and he was good at like jailbreaking, so he downloaded the illegal version, and I was just always on Photoshop making like MySpace layouts. So then from there, I was like, that was like all the rage. So in my head, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to college. I didn't know what I was going to college for yet, but I'm like, I'm gonna go to college, and we're already like, we were doing like baby tours, like tri-state area tours. I'm like, I can make designs for other bands and like set up my merch table. Like I was thinking like very Johnny Cupcakes. I don't know if you're familiar.
I went to school in Boston.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Johnny is huge out there. I wanted to start, like he's one of my biggest inspirations for everything.
So early on too, like you had this like, I'm gonna start a business idea.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it.
That's not like I'm gonna do designs for this corporation. You automatically thought I'm gonna have my own table and all these.
Yeah, and you like hearing you say that, like now I'm realizing that I didn't know that as a kid.
That's bold though, to think that at such an early age. Did you have people in your life that were entrepreneurs?
No.
So why?
I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea.
Well, you did say that you saw like Johnny Cupcakes and other people, so maybe that was like the influence?
Well, I guess it was just like, well, if they can do it, so can I. It was one of those things. Like, it's very DIY, and I guess I grew up in the DIY culture.
That's fair, yeah.
So it's never, I don't have anyone in my family that's, oh yeah, I started my own business, but I'm like the crazy one. I can do it. Like,
but it's also you in that band experience. I'm starting to see the connections, right? Because
I'm starting to see them too.
That's being the therapy session.
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting, right? Because even the band, you saw people doing these amazing shows, and you were like, yeah, if they could do it, I can. We don't have an amp, but somebody will help us buy it, and then we'll do this.
And
that's interesting. Yeah.
And nobody went up being like, hey, like, I'm happy to barter something or help you, like, but is it possible if I could use this? Like, back in the day, I had no vergüenza, like a little bit, because I very much wanted like my own things.
Right.
So to have to borrow someone's guitar, or, yeah, I don't really like asking for help, so I'm very much, I'll do it myself, and I always figure it out.
But you sound like you were comfortable doing it though.
Well, I didn't have vergüenza as like a 14-year-old, you know what I mean? But now I'm like, no, I'll do it myself, like I'll figure it out. I try to be as self-sustainable as possible.
Who hurt you?
Well, I think life, I mean, honestly, it's more, I think, so I moved out of my house at 17, and I think from that point, because I made that decision, it was very much, okay, well, you're on your own, right? So I think I have a lot of pride, I will say that, and I think I'm comfortable with it. I'll check myself when I'm like, oh, you're being too prideful right now, step back.
It's blocking something.
Yeah, and I've gotten better at that as I've gotten older, so I always see the bigger picture, or at least I try to, but I think once, and I don't really want to put this on my family, but essentially I lost my mom, I moved out, and then after that point it was just like, okay, well, you're on your own then. And I had already been working since I was 14, so that was when I got my first job. So then once I took a year off after high school, because I was just like, well, I moved out, I need to figure out my life. And I was working at the bike shop at that time, from high school throughout college. So I think that period of independence, like my first taste of independence, I put this armor on and I was like, I don't want to ask for help, you know? It didn't seem like the help was there, offered either.
Yeah.
Or at least, I'm sure it was, like from my family side, but it didn't feel like it. So I very much like kind of just, like, I'm gonna figure it out myself.
How would you have liked it to feel?
I guess the way it felt when my parents were around, like that sense of like support. I guess, I don't know, I mean, everything happened right before my life changed right before I graduated high school. Mm-hmm. So prior to that was like super supportive. My mom didn't listen to rock music, but she's in some random basement on 157 watching us play, like, oh, that's my kid. She wasn't into it, but there was like, or my sister would come to the Knitting Factory show with my cousin, feeling that sense of support. Well, you guys are definitely not into this, but you're there.
So that like quality time type of support.
Yeah, like I think just even
present.
knowing. Yeah, just showing the support there. And not to say that I don't feel that. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've kind of retracted that, like at least from them. So like, for instance, if I have a show, I'll maybe invite like maybe one or two of my family members that I know that would be upset if I didn't tell them. But otherwise, I don't really share that aspect. I don't share things with them anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so your career though, right? Because you had these ideas of, I'm gonna do this of my own, I wanna own this, I wanna do it myself. But there became a point where you started also entertaining, let's call it a traditional path, right? You started taking on jobs, but also doing your thing on the side. Like, what was that like? So
I think everything started through the bike shop, I want to say. The bike shop was a huge conduit. Well, first and foremost, I grew up working locally. I've always worked in the neighborhood. So first was a vegan restaurant when I was 14 that this guy owns a hair salon on Dykeman. And he's like, my sister's opening a restaurant. He knew me as a kid. He's like, you should work for her. So that was my first job. Then it was the bike shop. Through the bike shop, I saw an opportunity with a bike company that had opened up in Brooklyn, and I was going to school, I was in college, working full-time and going to school full-time, and I just cold emailed this company. I was like, hey, you guys are located in Brooklyn, you just opened, I sell your product. I've been in the cycling industry for 8 years at this point. I'm a graphic designer, I need an internship. Can I intern for you? I had an interview, they hired me on the spot, and then from there it was just like, I had a legit company that had product all across America, and I was doing everything for them, from like designing the boxes to the catalogs to the bikes to the merch. And that was like my first intro into doing everything. Right. At like 22, 23, I was working for this company, and then from there it kind of just catapulted. I got an opportunity with the Parks department, and I saw an opening for it for a temporary position. It was like 6 months. Mind you, I'm coming from the cycling industry. Ripped up jeans, grease on me, I smell like bike tires, very hands-on, my hands are always dirty.
Even though you're a graphic designer.
Right. I do this on the side. All the design stuff that I did was like for the bike shop. It was like real small stuff, like flyers. Right. I rebranded the shop at one point throughout college. So it wasn't actual the chunky design stuff didn't come till Tribe, till the bike company. So I feel like that's And to think that I knew what I was doing then and then go into Parks, I got my ass kicked at Parks. Like
Why?
first couple
Well, it was also like a very different culture.
environment. The culture, it was such a culture shock. Like I remember one of the first questions I asked my old boss was like, I know this is really silly, but what's the dress code in the office? Because like I need you to understand that I'm coming from a bike shop. Like
Right.
I could wear Vans and have ripped up clothes and look dirty. Like and I've never been that person to dress up. I've always been a tomboy. I used to have anxiety as a kid. Oh God, do I have to wear skirts in my job? Like that corporate America idea.
Yeah.
So that always gave me anxiety growing up.
It even goes back to like high school. I mean, Catholic middle school.
Yeah, it's like prom. I gotta wear a dress. Like, what the hell? It's like all these social, standards that one has to meet, and it's totally not true. You can do whatever you want. But it was a huge culture shock, and even with like type, I remember. Jesus Christ, we did so much work there. But
and then where was the office?
Parks. Well, Parks was at, where the Central Park Zoo is? That huge castle that's in front of the zoo? That's the headquarters.
So this is also the first time you probably commuting outside of the neighborhood because you were also always like supporting the local businesses.
Yep.
And even though you did travel to the Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
This was like the city.
Yeah.
Which I think for a lot of people, we often put like the city on a pedestal. And you probably seen people commuting to work, and you've seen people what they wear, and like all this type of shit. It's different.
Yeah, 100%. And I got to a point, funny enough, I went into Parks knowing that I wasn't gonna stay there forever. Because it was a temporary position. I had signed up for a 6-month contract. Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, oh, it's 6 months. That gives enough time for Tribe, the bike company in Brooklyn, to get there together because they were growing. And they had promised me an office. They were getting a new warehouse in like Jersey or something. They were expanding. So I was like, this 6 months is gonna be a good learning experience for me with Parks. And obviously it's one of my biggest dreams to work for the city. I've either MTA, DOT, or Parks, and I ended up getting Parks. Dream come true. And this is why I love what you do, because I felt like an alien. I felt so stupid in the room. People were talking about, what novels they read and like the Times bestseller list and The Bachelor, the latest episode, like that. And I'm like, I don't watch this. You guys are so clean cut and I feel so ghetto. Not to say that I'm from the hood, but I'm from the hood. I grew up on the street. I grew up like with tigueraje. So then I found myself stuttering, not being able to talk. I didn't know how to actually communicate with people in the office. I would get by, but it would sound like, I felt like I sounded stupid. I don't sound intelligent right now, or I don't sound confident in what I'm saying. And granted, there's public speaking in that role. I'm here teaching people about our brand, new hires, doing classes and stuff. So I don't have a problem with that, but very much like I'm just thinking back to like the bullpen office. Like I love everyone that was on my team, but I felt very different.
Well, it's kind of like when you're writing a paper and you're like, oh, this word isn't big enough. And then you pull up the thesaurus and literally just replace mad words to try to make your essay sound better. 100%. That's how I felt in certain offices too.
It's horrible. You shouldn't feel like that because you bring something to the table, right? There's a reason why you're there. And then it's, well, damn, now I feel like I have to belittle myself. I have to quiet myself because they're not going to be comfortable with it. Like painting this, or let's say in the Bronx, right? Mapes, there's a pool called Mapes on East 183rd.
Okay.
It's the hood. We're like out there, like on the corner, and people are like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Or people are like,
people are telling you that?
Yeah, because I mean, we're kind of like changing the landscape and it looks like gentrification, which I'm the first one to be like, somos de aquí. This is for you guys. This isn't for the new people that may come in.
Right.
But I'd be the one to facilitate that conversation with the people on the ground because the people that I was working with, they didn't feel comfortable, immediately would tense up. It's, well, you're not from here. I understand that, but also you don't know the life that they're living. I don't live the same life as this person. They're a little rougher on the edges, but I understand. I coexist with them.
Right.
The people that I work with are like, oh, like what's going on? They get nervous. I'm like, you got to talk to people the way that they want to be treated.
It's interesting that them feeling uncomfortable in that situation is probably how you felt in the office.
100%.
The complete opposite.
100%. I was in my element out on the street talking to people like, okay. And they would be like, oh my God, they'll laugh at me, joking around like, Steph got it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. It's so funny. I didn't think of it that way.
It's interesting though, like how much of that do you think is you telling yourself a story, right? Versus people actually telling you you're ghetto, you look ghetto, you're dressing this, and you don't speak well, or whatever it is, right? Because I think it's sometimes a combination. It's like we often tell ourselves that story because we're just comparing ourselves. We're putting them on a pedestal. But oftentimes too, people literally be like, yo, you gotta change. So was it a combination? Like,
I think it was me. I was in my head, 100%.
So no one ever gave you like actual resistance in like,
No. I mean, I was very fortunate. There was one time where my director was totally out of pocket. She's known for like
Jesus.
running her mouth. And
Yeah.
But like one time she was like, she came up. Granted, I was very fortunate that I could wear sneakers with like slacks and like a sweater or like a hoodie. And with like only New York putting out Parks gear, I was constantly wearing Parks gear, but like streetwear Parks gear, you know? And like pushing that boundary a little. So like I did feel comfortable in the office. I ended up getting used to like the style, right? What I can wear, what I can't wear.
Right.
And still be true to myself. I'll still go into a meeting with Vans on, but I'll throw on some slacks and that'll be like the offset. So it's like business casual.
Yeah. It's like you start testing a little bit like, oh, they say anything? Ooh, let me do a
exactly.
little more.
Pushing the
Nothing?
boundaries.
A little more.
Yeah, because I would see people walk in and I'm like, we had one person in the office that was like super spiffy, every day with a new suit. God damn, like, you dress so fire. This is so cool. And you have nothing going on today. No crazy meetings.
It's a Tuesday.
Right, like a regular Tuesday. And then there's me that I'll have, I don't know, like a t-shirt tucked in with like slacks and like sneakers, like Nikes or Vans.
But we just compare ourselves. That's what we do.
Exactly, and it was all in my head, honestly, because no one ever said anything, except for the one time where this lady was like, she made a joke because I was running a meeting and I like had saved the table, like a communal table, and I hear her laughing. She's like, oh, Steph, I gotta tell you, I thought you were a homeless person sitting on the table. It's a public building, so people can go in. In my head, I'm like, I'm wearing an only like Prospect Park hoodie, some slacks, I don't know what shoes, I think I had some like Air Maxes on and like my chunky headphones. And in my head, I'm like, I look homeless to you? Just the top part alone, I have like $400. What are you talking, like, you know, and that's not to say like to itemize things. I don't give a fuck about what brands I wear, but in my head, I'm like, you're so ignorant. And also, why the fuck would you say that? Are you crazy? If I said this to HR, they'd have a field day with you. I look homeless? For real? And that right there, that was kind of like the tipping point for me at the agency where I was like, I'm done. Like,
it also probably validated the things that you were thinking though.
100%.
Because sometimes they say you won't remember what they said, but you'll remember how they made you feel. And a lot of times, some people don't say anything. It could just be a look, it could be a feeling that you get. But again, other times people literally tell you and you're like, I knew she was thinking that.
Yeah. I was just waiting for it. And it's, again, no one ever said anything to me. I never had a problem, but that was like the one instance. And I was already in a weird crossroads with my career, not with what I wanted to do, but I just felt stuck. I started to feel stuck. And I wanted more, right? And that right there that was it for me. I was like, cool. Now I have tough-ass skin. I don't feel bad if I do leave. Because I also didn't feel supported in that situation. No one came to me. And it was said in front of people. No one, like, stopped me like, hey, I'm really sorry, are you okay?
It was said
like,
in front of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah, it was
shit.
like that. It wasn't a big group, but there was at least one or two people there.
Right.
And one of them was, like, my direct person that I work with. And you are my buffer between this person. You at least should have. And I'm very family oriented with the people that I'm around. And it's funny because I'm not family oriented with my actual family. But the family that I created, I'm very much not. Yo soy bien cariñosa. Like, yes, we work together and we have that barrier of what we can't cross.
Sure.
But I'm gonna talk to you about my life and you're gonna talk to me about yours because we're just cool like that. So that's the kind of relationship I had. And once I didn't feel like the support in that aspect, I was like, all right, cool. I'm just this workhorse that like, and I know that I'm cared for there, but it was just like, it was a tipping point for me. And then the quarantine happened. So I was just like, it was like increasing. I was waiting to be like pulled aside to be spoken to about this and it didn't happen and the days kept going and I just kept growing more and more angry towards it. Damn, I put so much on myself and I bust my ass.
And it was a dream for you to finally work for the city.
And I always say that. I still say it. I'm like, yeah, it was like one of my favorite jobs. It was like literally a dream come true. To be able to walk into a train and see your design, I'm like, bro, what? I was like a silly person taking selfies and like freaking out. People are like, what the f is going on? I don't know. I still get bugged out. Seeing the finger on the trash cans. I drew that finger.
You drew the finger?
I drew that finger, yeah.
I didn't know that. I see the finger everywhere.
Yeah, I remember when that request came in because we had a huge litter problem during quarantine. We had to do something about it.
I feel like you're one of those people that, you know how people be like, oh, how do you identify? People often put cultural things. I feel like you would put New Yorker above all of those kind of
100%.
things. And I feel like that's why the whole dream thing, I mean, it starts off with you always wanted to work local, wanted to help, and then your dream to be, because it's not even, maybe I'm just making this up, but I don't think it's just about working for the city so that you can see your designs. It's so that because the whole city's seeing your designs. You know what I
Like
mean?
all 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
That right there, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Se me paran los pelos. Yeah, for real.
Se me paran los pelos.
No, for real, because it's like, I'm such a nerd with that kind of shit.
You're
Right?
beautifying
Like,
the city.
Yeah.
On fucking trash cans. It's so dope.
literally, yeah. And every trash can around the city. And those the orange banners, that's park your trash here. I was literally anything that has the Parks leaf on it, there was only 2 people managing everything that you see here. In front of you,
Yeah.
the dolphin, like everything, just 2 people in the office, which was myself and the creative director, pumping everything out. And you know, historically, creative directors don't really do that much work. She was pumping out work. She had to, you
Right,
know?
they're more strategy typically.
Crazy. And I don't think a lot of people understand what it takes to have that job. Some people, I have a lot of pride even saying, yeah, I used to work for the Parks Department. Like I designed for the Parks Department. But I think when people think of that, they're like, oh, the flyers that you see at like the entrance of the park. No. Like you see the cops, like their memo pads that they're giving you tickets, I designed that. Like the patches, their shields, like I drew that by hand. I made sure that order went through. Like I had to deal with the vendors in order to get those patches done and make sure that things are like a specific size. And
That's crazy.
the Rangers have an annual report we got to do. It's like the different, once you know that the agency has different divisions, right? Like
yeah.
different
It's huge.
sectors, huge. All of those people were our clients.
Right.
And then we had to do like exterior stuff for the city, like citywide stuff. So we were slammed. There was a lot of work that went into parks, which is crazy. But
So how did that experience though shift your perspective of what a dream career would be? Like, did that force you to lean more into going back to maybe I should focus a little bit more on like my own thing?
I had like this shift in my head one time. It's so funny, but I saw this guy. He probably worked at like Vice. Like he looked like someone that would work at Vice, and he
Some
was
like
just
Brooklyn
like,
hipster type of
yeah. And we were on the A train going downtown, and like homie just like pulls out his vape pen, hits it, and it's just like super chill. And I'm across from him, dying with anxiety because I have like some meeting or like I have this project due, and I was just like, I can't wait till I'm that person where I'm comfortable going to work, like where I'm not stressed out about what's coming down the pipeline or what's due or like the environment that I'm in. Like it's crazy because I haven't felt that anxiety in so long. It's going on, I think I'm hitting 2 years of leaving the agency. 1 full year of being like completely freelance, which is crazy. I gotta pop a bottle next month.
Hell yeah.
I think December is officially a year. I think I started dabbling with leaving the regular steady income paycheck around now. I started like, winding myself off, and then by December I was like fully freelance, which is crazy. So since then,
Congrats.
thank you. It's been a journey, but
Definitely gotta pop a bottle.
I'm popping a
or
couple
celebrate
bottles.
however you do. Bottles was the first word you said, so you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely popping a bottle. I love me some champagne, but I want to celebrate with my friends because they know like how long it's taken me. But yeah, once I saw that guy, I was like, that's how I want to be able to like hit a vape and go to work and be tranquila and have fun with what I'm doing. Not to say that I didn't have fun with what I was doing at the agency, but it didn't feel like me. I didn't feel comfortable. It was very much like I was playing a part. And once I hit like year 4, year 5 at the agency, I started to get way comfortable. I was just like, I am who I am. The issue at the office in the building for me was that person would lift the finger or turn around. They'll say hi to him, but if he has 5 or 6 boxes, I was the first one to get up. Kenny, let me help you. That's for us, bro. You're bringing stuff for us. And that's how I was with everyone. So there was like this elitist feeling for everyone that was like, at least this is what I understood, right?
Yeah, or
I
how
could
you
be
felt.
totally I could totally be wrong about this, but I
It's
know
how you
that
felt. It's fine.
and that's how other people felt as well. But if people knew where you worked, that you worked in that building, they're like, oh, excuse me. And it's, no, I'm one of you. Don't play yourself. I'm not this uppity person. Yo estoy hangueando con los janitors, like all my Latinos. There were some people that were like higher level, senior staff that were Latino, but majority of the Latinos were like the people that ran the building, maintenance.
Maintenance, yeah.
And I'm chilling with them. You know what I mean? I'm talking to them, hey, ¿cómo está? Like, you know, talking about their weekends, and they all knew me by name, you know?
It's almost like you had maybe even more in common with them versus the other people. And it's interesting too, like I had a speaking engagement at Macy's the other day, and their office is literally upstairs from the retail in 34th. So my mom, she goes shopping there all the time. So after the engagement, she was like, oh, let me introduce you to my makeup girl, the woman that sells me makeup. She's like, ¿Cómo está? Blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, like, where was it? And I was like, oh, it was upstairs. She's like, oh, right, same thing. And it was like, oh, you went to corporate to do the president. Yeah, great.
And it's like, no, I'm an approachable person. Like, I'm not this like uppity person. So I always made that a point. Like, I would if we had like a party or whatever, I'd go hang out with my other Latinos that were like in a totally different division, but I was cool with them. I didn't feel comfortable in certain conversations.
See, I would do that, but then I would get labeled unfriendly from my team because I wasn't hanging out with them.
That's crazy.
There were times when I wouldn't, when I worked at Facebook, they got like a huge office, all open space concept. I would never work at my desk because I get distracted really easily. So I would work from somewhere in the office.
Like a common room or something.
Sure, yeah, all of that. But never at my desk because I get distracted. And I need to work alone for the most part. I would be labeled unfriendly. I did my work, but my manager would tell me that I need to be like more best friends with my colleagues. And I'm like, why?
The camaraderie, that's what means, like, I don't know. I don't know what the benefit of that is.
But there's so many like unspoken rules and like politics that is part of it where it's just like, I just want to work. I just want to do dope. I just want to work.
That's
like,
kind of how I operate too. I'm like, I just want to do the thing. You know what I mean? I'm friendly, whatever. But if I need to get the job done, if I have to get work done, let me do my thing. I don't know. It's almost like if you don't go to the happy hour.
Yes.
Like, you're antisocial.
Yeah.
Like you're not. What's the term that they use? You're not about camaraderie.
Not a team player? Or
yeah, they use that language, and it's not it. I would rather go home and work. I had something else to do. I have a life. I don't have to be with you. I'm with you guys more than I am at home. You know what I mean? Like
with my family, with my friends, all that.
Yeah,
or maybe that's just not your thing.
Yeah, 100%. But there's that
but you get judged
pressure.
For it.
Yeah, there's that pressure. You have to go. Eso que me importa.
All right, so what about these days though, right? You're gonna pop the bottles. You're definitely hitting your stride. You're doing dope work.
Thank you.
Do you still feel that pressure to like fit in, assimilate? Do you feel uncomfortable being yourself?
No, I think after leaving the agency and kind of like finding my footing and like taking the plunge, it's scary, to be honest, because I'm very like, once I started my career, I'm like, oh, I have a safety net. And I feel like it took me longer than most people because of the way my life played out. I always felt like a step behind. While everyone was out traveling the world in their 20s, I was working.
Right.
So now that I'm in my 30s, I feel like I took the plunge that I should have taken when I was in my 20s, right? But that's all to say that now, since I took the plunge at this age, I feel like I have a better grasp and I'm making less mistakes than my peers did when they were in their 20s.
Right.
They're little cricas, like they didn't know what they were doing, right? And they're like, either they have daddy, mommy money or whatever, but I'm just more strategic now, and I don't know, like whatever the universe has blessed me in the last year, I feel way more comfortable. Like working at MRFU, I work out of the store. I'm either designing for other clients or I'm doing strictly MRFU like work. I had an epiphany the other day because I didn't feel the anxiety of having to go into work. I'm going to the shop. Like it was just super casual. And mind you, like I have a slew of work that I got to get done that day, but I didn't have the anxiety going in. I'm happy to walk into the shop. I'm happy to see Diddy and see all the familiar faces, because at the end of the day, I'm still in the neighborhood. I'm doing something for the neighborhood. It's a small business, and I'm like metiendo mano as much as I possibly can. So it's just a level of comfort. It's just different. It's different. It's scary in different ways, but that anxiety has completely dissipated, and I feel way more comfortable in my career choices.
I love it.
And that's all to say that I feel like I've scraped just the first layer of it, and there's so much more to do. And I think what I'm struggling with right now is the amount of work. I truly do have a catalog of work. I don't properly showcase it, right? So my website right now shows work that's been done 2014, 2015. It's just this year alone. I've worked with Nike, Adidas, doing event design for them. And it's like all the stuff that I've done with MRFU. And there are people that I'm not even thinking of right now, like Hector.
For sure.
Like all of the packaging already, it's like he's rolling it out. Thank you, I appreciate that. It's a total difference, and every time I see the bag, I'm like, yes. Yeah, man, I'm happy for his growth, even pre-rebranding, but I hope that it's like to the moon now with everything. Like there's a cohesive look, and it's a slow rollout, but
yeah, like you're helping so many brands be found and be known. Imagine if you did that for yourself.
And what's crazy is that like in the last year, and I don't want to sound I don't know,
braggadocious or
I guess. I mean,
cocky, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's not, because honestly, I really do feel like the imposter syndrome. Like I suffer from that 100%. I very much do feel the imposter syndrome. Parks actually brought me on board last week to shoot one of their galas, and it's an event. Like for 5.5 years, I shot all of our, like, we have 4 Parks produced events. I would shoot all 4 of them on top of designing the events. So, like, run-of-the-mill stuff. I was nervous, like, going on the 7 train. I was like, man, I don't know why I feel nervous about this. And I think after having our conversation right now, it's honestly, it was the group of people that I was walking in, going to see.
Kind of like
it's a different
PTSD
element.
or-
Yeah, that, or like, it's like, this is a gala. It's fancy. Like, am I dressed properly? Do I have to remember certain people's names? Do I have to approach this person because they're a senior staff, you know, in the like that? And it's so silly, but ended up being a really good time, right? But things like that, I have the imposter syndrome of, am I gonna perform? Am I gonna catch the right moments? What if something happens to the camera? And these are moments where it's split second, you have to grab them, right? But there's always that fear. So in my head, I'm always like, there's always room to learn. And I feel like I still have a lot to learn. I don't do a great job at keeping up with it because I'm just so busy with work. But all to say, in the last year, I've been very, very fortunate to get new clients. Like, my clients list has grown a lot. The connections that I've made, all the work that I've done, and that's without having to reach out to people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are like, I had one person actually come into the shop, but how did you get that? But like, how? And I'm like, I don't know, just my work speaks for itself. Like, I don't approach people, I don't cold call, I don't ever pitch anything to people. And this is like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but people come to me.
No,
and it's like,
fine.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful because, again, I have no Instagram right now that shows my work. Like, none. My shit. That's what I'm saying. My website shows work from, again, 2014 to like about 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
But there's so much work in between that's not shown, and then all the new stuff that I've done. And it's like big corporate names, like household names that we all swoon for, you know what I mean? And so imagine if I did properly lay it out, like, and I feel like maybe this is just happening the way it is. Sometimes I struggle with feeling lazy or like I'm not doing enough, but
Same.
I feel like the universe, like, things are going in the pace that they are because I wouldn't have been ready to open the floodgates then. And I feel like now, every day I flex the muscle, the design muscle, let's say. Every day, and I see the difference in me where I'm pumping stuff out faster. And things were moving fast with Parks. The turnaround time was crazy, and I was pumping out so much work at once that I think that set me up. It's like boot camp. So now when I get a lot of requests, I can bang them out quickly, but I feel like I'm just faster with certain things that would take me a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this takes me like an hour now.
Mi gente, that wraps up another episode of the Quién, Eres podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please do us a favor, leave a rating and a review, like, share, comment. Your feedback and engagement will help us in the algorithms to ensure that these experiences get heard by as many people as possible, because that's the only way that we're going to redefine professionalism. Thank you. See you next time.